What's going on? Jake here with Uncommon EDC. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Kansept Pelican EDC. I've had this one for a while, but only recently started carrying it, hence why I hadn't made a video on it yet, but I've really been enjoying it recently, so figured it was about time. You can pick this model up for around $175, and as always, I'll make sure to leave a link in the description of the video if you're interested in checking that out. They offer it in a few different configurations, so this one's obviously the blacked out version, but if that's not really your thing, they have some others as well, including some with some pops of color on the hardware and things like that, if that's more your speed. They also offer a lefty-friendly version, which I think is great. I'm right-handed, but especially with frame locks, I think it makes a lot of sense to offer dedicated left-handed models because frame locks aren't particularly ambidextrous friendly. They're set up for right-hand carry. A majority of them aren't even going to offer reversible pocket clips because although lefties can adapt and use them, it's not really optimized for left-hand carry. And so the left-handed version not only swaps a pocket clip, but is going to swap your frame lock as well. And I think that's great so that lefties can experience it the same way right-hand people do. And so that's awesome. The materials on here, this is a premium offering for sure at $175, and I think Kansept is moving more and more in that direction as we've seen with the introduction of their budget line, that Kansept's going to be reserved for these more premium high-end knives. And so we do get some premium materials here with the titanium handle S35VN on the steel. Great materials at that price point for sure. In terms of sizing on this knife, 7 inches on the dot, so sort of an extra medium. We have really clean dimensions that are very easy to remember. 3 inches on that drop point style blade, 4 inches on the dot on the titanium handles. Those titanium handles also offer some incredible ergos. I'm able to get all 4 fingers on here, but I'm also able to just get a relaxed, leisurely, spread out grip on here. It doesn't feel super tight or compact, cramped like the Mini Adira that we looked at yesterday. And so I kind of singled that out because of the Mini Adira. The handles on that one's about 4¼ inches, and it had a more pronounced ricasso here in front of the finger groove that ended up placing you well behind the pivot. The end also tapered off a little bit more dramatically. This one does, but it's a lot more of a subtle tapering, and so it doesn't force you to have that tight grip. You can really spread out on here, and I'm still able to get a full 4-finger grip even though the handle's smaller, and extremely comfortable with no hot spots whatsoever. The landing point for your thumb is perfect. There's no jimping on it, but it really doesn't need it because of that harsh angle right before the thumb stud. It keeps you from sliding forward. The finger groove's well placed, and I don't really feel like I'm sliding forward or backward on this handle no matter what, and that's really nice because the texturing on the titanium you can see is non-existent, pretty much completely flat, and that's probably because they didn't need it. It's just a really well designed handle. If you want to put a little bit more pressure behind the cutting edge there, you can creep up into this cutout, this sort of a harpoon style cutout, and get a lot of pressure behind there with also an extremely comfortable grip. You just slide forward slightly, and both of these grips feel very comfortable and natural to me. The knife itself is a little bit on the heavy side at 3.43 ounces, but you really don't feel it in hand. It's very well balanced, and everything just feels pretty natural about it to me. The one exception would be if you end up landing right above that thumb stud. You can see there's a point that's been knocked back. It's not sharp or anything like that. But if you're putting pressure there, it's definitely a pressure point. You definitely feel it, and it does become a quick hot spot. If you're feeling that though, it's a pretty easy fix of sliding backwards 2 millimeters or forwards a couple millimeters, and you'll get off of that point into one of the 2 really comfortable grips. And so pretty easy to avoid. I don't really count that against it. Although everyone's hands are different, and maybe that's just a natural landing point for your thumb, and you're not going to be a huge fan of that. But for me, I find it pretty easy to avoid. Our blade is a 3-inch drop point style blade, again with that harpoon style cutout. We have about a 3/4 of the length flat grind on here, a nice thin edge at the bottom. Pretty clean overall design. You can see not a lot of billboarding on here. We have the Kansept logo in front of the thumb stud, and all of the rest tucked behind up against the frame. So we have S35VN and some sort of model designation over here. On the other side, we have Pelican EDC, as well as the designer, the K-Max ROM design. I believe this is a guy named Jonathan, French Army. Really cool design. I like the looks of it, but also extremely functional. So it looks cool, but he definitely thought it out from a ergonomic perspective, and a lot of the design choices really lend itself more to that than the overall look, even though it ended up looking cool. But yeah, the branding is pretty minimalized, which I'm a huge fan of. We do have a nice lanyard hole on the back, pretty generous sizing on that. right above our pocket clip. So our pocket clip is not ultra deep carry. I don't have a problem with that. I like the pocket clip nice enough. You can see it's starting to get a little bit of wear under there, obviously from sliding it in and out of the pocket, but it's well placed. It follows the shape of the frame lock perfectly, so it's not landing on there, and that offers you a very nice landing spot so that you make sure that you're not putting pressure on that frame lock when you're opening it, so you can just sit on top of that frame or on top of that pocket clip and flick it open. Really good action on here as well. I believe it is on bearings. It has a heavier but not too heavy detent where once it comes out, it's coming flying out. Great acoustics on it and plenty of access to that thumb stud from both the thumb side as well as the middle finger slide. So if you want to flick that open with your middle finger, you can definitely do that. If you want to flick it open with your thumb, you can definitely do that. It kind of looks like it has a front flipper, and I would imagine some people can front flip this. I can't. There's no jimping on there, so it's hard to get a grip onto it. I think if there was some jimping, I probably could front flip it, but I've tried it a few times and never really gained any traction there, so don't really consider it a alternate deployment method, although there are some people who for sure would be able to do that. Overall, super clean design. I love the size on it. I love the look of it. Ergos on here are great. So this is another one that I'm really happy it came in one of these subscription boxes, because I think looking at it online, I like the design of it, but it doesn't really call out to me where it's something I would have felt like I had to order. It's cool enough looking, but again, really not something that I had to have. But once I had it, even after I got it, actually, I didn't carry it for a while. It just ended up sitting in a drawer. But once I gave it a chance, once I started carrying it, I really came to enjoy this knife. So big fan of it. Again, I'll leave a link to it down in the description if you're interested in checking that out. Seems like it's available a few places still. Don't think it's like discontinued or anything like that, so shouldn't have a hard time getting it. It seems to be in stock plenty of different retailers. So let me know what you think though down in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, consider liking, commenting, subscribing, checking out some of my other videos. It all helps the channel out a ton, and I hope you have a great one. Take care.